Alright, BobalosRex here, and if you can't tell by the title, this is the mining video. This is going to be the first of me going over all the main professions, and this is the first gathering one. The gathering ones are going to be a lot easier, but here we go, let's get into this. So, first off, if you want to be a miner in Dragonflight, you can talk to the trainer in the first little area. There's a couple all scattered around, you can find them on your map, Or you come right here to Valdraken and you learn from good old Sakita the Burrower, who's going to be your best friend as a miner, okay? So you learn mining, you go out. We're going to turn on Find Mineral if you don't already. You turn that on, and then we're going to go out and mine. Alright? But the first thing I want to go over is equipment. Okay? Mining equipment. Let's look at this. Let's look at these mining equipments. So, I do have the rare version of the equipment here. But essentially, what your mining equipment is you got your little mining satchel. Alright? That engineers make. This, I think hold on, let's look. Depending on the stats, when you craft these, you can dictate what stat you get, okay? And I'm trying to see if this is one. This is not one. Okay, so this one's the static stat. So this thing is going to give you more finesse, okay? And then the epic version is going to give you more mining skill. Not the epic version, the rare version, okay? So the rare version of most equipment, as you can see, if the normal version, okay, doesn't give you plus skill, the rare version will. Alright, so that's giving me finesse and the mining skill, which helps boost my mining. And then you got your diver's helmet, which engineers also make. So if you're a miner and you want to get this equipment, there are quests that can get you this equipment. Or if you're an engineer, have an engineer that can make you the equipment. So again, this is giving me plus mining skill. I think the green helm gives +4, but that may not be the case. Okay, no. The pick gives +4. Okay. So, again, the rare version will give me +6. The normal version wouldn't. And then this equipment is giving me deafness and perception. Okay? And I'll talk about what the stats do. And that's your mining helmet. Now, you don't need these two equipments because these are accessories to go actually mine. But it's good to have because these stats help you out a lot. So now let's move on to the final piece of equipment. This is your mining tool. You can buy the base pickaxe and get out mining or whatever. Or you can get the new green pickaxe, slot this in here. It'll give you +4 skill. Alright? And a random stat. Because the way the tools work is, well, crafters make them and then they get a random stat. But crafters can also specify the stat. And then this is going to lead me into the stats. As you can see here, I also have this equipment enchanted. So your tool can be enchanted, like a weapon, alright? And I have perception. Now the reason I use perception in my gathering, alright, is because it increases the rarity of rewards I get. Alright? Deafness increases the speed at which you mine, so when I'm mining, it goes quicker if I'm more deaf. I've had a deaf pickaxe, and let me tell you, it was like, instant. Alright? And then finesse increases the amount of stuff you get. Alright? Perception increases the quality and the rarity. Finesse increases the amount. Alright? So if you want a tune that's just going to create tons and tons and tons of material, you want to get finesse. Alright. I know that's a lot to take in. I went over profession equipment. Profession equipment in its own is its own video. But I wanted to put this in the mining video so you know what equipment you're working with. So you need the tool. I'm going to recap real quick. You need the tool, get it enchanted if you can. If it's cheap, if it's easy, you have an enchanter, I would do that. Otherwise, you know, get a basic one and work your way up. You know, make yourself some accessories if you can. Say you are also an engineer with your mining, you can make yourself some equipment. Blacksmiths make the pickaxe. So if you're a blacksmith, you can make your own pickaxe. So that's pretty cool. But now, let's go over more stuff about mining specifically, okay? So, I'm going to show you how to mine real quick. And then we're going to talk about some other stuff. So if you don't know how to mine, we're going to fly over here, because this is the next spot I'm going to go in. So, I'm looking at my mini-map here. We're looking at my mini-map. You know, we're looking. Now, there is a cool thing with Dragonflight Perfect. So, you're going to see nodes that have a faint... Oh my god, really? Oh my god. Alright. We'll come back to that. So, you see how the mining nodes appear on your mini-map? There's these little rocks on your mini-map. That's what you're going to be looking for. Alright? We got more rocks. I'm trying to find an easy set that I can mine that's not in a place. Alright. We found some rocks, and you mine them. As you can see, I'm mining on my dragon. We'll talk about that soon. Now, I've specifically come to this place for a reason. Alright? You may have thought this was random, but this is very specific. So, I mined one of the most basic ores on Dragon Isles, so let's start going over these ores right now. So, there's 3 kinds of ores in Dragonflight. You got Cerebrite, Draconium, and Casgarite, okay? Severite is the normal quality ore. You find that all over the place. Draconium is the uncommon ore. You find that all over the place as well. Casgarite is the rare ore, and you do not find deposits of this anywhere, okay? Alright? So, that's kind of the materials you gather from mining. You can also pick up salt deposits, which are used for cooking. And in the case of mining, you find a lot of rousing fire and rousing earth. And rousing order. You find a lot specifically of rising fire and rising earth. Rousing, not rising. But in all the gathering professions, you can find infurious, or rousing ire and rousing order as well. And primal chaos is its own thing. But for rousing essences, miners get a lot of fire and earth, as opposed to the other gatherer that I'll talk about in its video. Now moving on, so we're going to talk about the different ore deposits. So we got our normal Cerebrite deposits and our normal Draconium deposits, alright, which I've talked about. Now, in Dragonflight, there's this new type of ore, or let's continue with the basic ones. So, and then we got the rich deposits, which are essentially, you get more of this ore. That's nice. Rich Draconium deposit, more of the ore. You know, it's just like a meaty deposit of ore. Alright? Next, you have what I'm going to call the elemental. The elemental ore deposits, which consist of Titan Touch Cerebrite, Primal Cerebrite, Molten Cerebrite. If you have War Mode on, Infurious Cerebrite, and Hardened Cerebrite. You also have Titan Touch Draconium, Primal Draconium, Molten Draconium, Infurious Draconium, and Hardened Draconium. Okay? Now, these each do their own thing when you mine them, actually. And the first one of these special deposits you find unlocks this new ability, alright? Called Overload Elemental Deposit. Alright? And we'll talk about that in a moment. So let's get back to these special ore deposits, because they each have a special effect. Alright? hardened ore deposits, right? Look. So, is that... We'll talk about specs later. So, hardened cerebrite and hardened draconium, when you mine it, you may not notice anything if you're on a higher tune, other than you get a lot of earth. You get a lot of rousing earth from hardened deposits. Alright? But also, a cool thing to note about hardened deposits, on lower level tunes, they give a bunch of EXP. They give a ton of EXP. These give more than a whole quest of EXP when you mine them on alts. Alright? It's the only... Yeah, I think it's the only ore that does that. It's crazy how much XP you get when you mine hardened deposits. Alright? Now, in Furious deposits, and you can track which ones you have mined, because the cool part of mining in Dragonflight is you're going to notice the first time you mine something, you get a spec point. So as you're mining, you're going to get spec points. You'll notice that. But we'll talk about spec points and what to do with them in a little bit. So then we got in Furious deposits, these only appear in PvP. Alright, these only appear in PvP. And when you mine them, you get a little buff. Or no, the buff is from overloading. Scratch that. You mine them, no, the buff does... You may get a buff when you mine them. Now, molten deposits, you definitely get something when you mine them. So when you mine a molten deposit, you get a dot on you. This dot hurts. It will not kill you. Sorry. Oh my god, really? Okay. It will not kill you unless you do 2. If you do 2 of these back to back, you will probably die. Or if you're fighting stuff. This dot hurts, okay? There are ways to circumvent it. The best way to instantly stop this, no matter what class you are, jump in water. If you jump in water, okay, I need to small this. If you jump in water, okay, you will lose, the debuff will go away. Pro tip, alright? The next ore is Primal Ore. When you mine this, you will get 1 buff. You will get a buff that does something fancy with mining. These primal deposits drop a lot of rousing elements, both fire and earth. Molten deposits, I didn't mention this. And, okay, let's go back. Infurious deposits drop a bunch of rousing ire. Not a bunch, but they drop rousing ire when you mine them. Molten deposits drop rousing fire, and primal deposits drop both rousing earth and fire. And if you spec into it, you can get frost and air. Alright, but we'll talk about specs later. And then the final one is Titan Touch deposits. They don't do anything when you mine them specifically, but you do get a lot of rousing. You get rousing order from them, which rousing order is necessary for a lot of professions, let me tell you. Alright, so, and then when you mine any ore, you have a chance to get Casgarite. Casgarite will appear in the ores. The more skill you got, the more chance you have to get more Casgarite. That's the fancy ore. And then we're going to talk about overloading in a second, but I want to recap the deposits. Alright? So we got hardened deposits of Severite Draconium, which gives you more rousing earth. Infurious deposits, which give you rousing ire. You got molten deposits, which give you rousing fire and the debuff. Be careful with it. Primal deposits, which give you a lot of rousing of each, and more if you spec into it. Rich deposits, which give you a lot of the ore. Titan Touch deposits, which give you rousing order. And then the base deposits, which you mine to help you level up. And then Casgarite can be found within. And Casgarite has an interesting note about it. I'm going to read this real quick about Casgarite. This is a big hint for the future. The days of Casgarite emerging on the surface of the Dragon Isles have long since passed. Miners seeking the rare ore can only depend on trace amounts being uncovered when mining other materials. So if we ever go deep below the Dragon Isles, we may find a lot more Casgarite, and Casgarite is used for all the big mining tools, let me tell you. Okay, so we're moving on. So we're quickly going to talk about overload deposits, and then we're going to get into the real meat of the video. If you thought this was the real meat, what I'm going to get into is the real meat. So, when you unlock this profession ability, okay, and it's a profession ability that you unlock, but it's up here in your normal spell book. I'm in my normal spell book in general. If you didn't notice when you got this, you may not even know you have it, alright? It's in your normal spell book, and it's called Overload Elemental Deposit. Alright, nifty, that's cool. So, I'm not going to go out looking for an ore because that could make it take a long time. So, what I would do if I wanted to overload an elemental deposit, if I found, say I found a hardened deposit, an infurious deposit, these are all elemental deposits, I talked about them. The only ones that don't count for this are rich and the normal deposits. Alright? Rich you can't overload, and the normal ones you can't. But all these other ones you can overload, and they each, when you overload, they have a different effect, alright? And these effects completely change what you want to do with the node. Well, not completely change, but they give you a lot of different effects. So let's start going down the list. When you overload a hardened node, rocks will pop out of it, and then you can mine those rocks as well. It's really good to overload hardened nodes if you're trying to collect lots of material. Alright, if you're a miner and you just want to get ore, use your overload on hardened nodes. Alright? You also get a ton of rousing earth from it. That's great. When you overload an infurious node, you will create a shockwave that knocks back enemy players and gives you a shield. Alright? When you mine a molten node, a fire elemental will pop out, and killing that will get you a lot more rousing fire, as it says here. Right? Overloading a primal node will give you all 3 of the boons that you get. You get all 3 of the boons for 3 minutes. That you would, the buffs that I talked about that you get from mining one, you get all of them. And then the Titan node is very mysterious. The Titan node opens a portal to the nearest node, and that could be like 5 feet away. So overloading Titan nodes, I'm gonna be real with you, not my favorite thing. If you want elementals, if you need rousing fire, overload molten nodes, and if you just need more ore, overload hardened nodes. But there's a big but. Overload one of each ore. You always want to, on each character, that you want to overload each type 1 time. And you can check that right here in this journal. In your journal, you can check if you mined a deposit and or overloaded it. Okay? So this is a good thing to keep track of, because the first time, and this leads into the next video, the first time you overload and mine a deposit, you get a spec point. Alright? So you always want to mine 1 of everything, you want to overload 1 of everything. And then do the ones depending on what you're looking for in that moment. Now that leads us into spec points. Alright, you're going to notice I have a lot on this Demon Hunter because I've been mining a lot. But we're going to start with the main one. To me, the most important one for mining is this first tree mining process. In my experience, this is the first tree you want to unlock when you hit 25 skill. When you hit 25 skill in a profession, you unlock specializations. Alright? Specializations are the new Dragonflight profession mechanic, and these spec points are, when you put them in, they're permanent. Okay? So I'm going to go over my recommendations, but again, since they are permanent, it's your decision. But I'm going to go over my recommendations. So yeah, once you hit 25, you are now able to use those spec points that you've been gathering. Because you could have gotten some as you were leveling it up. You would have gotten some as you mined those nodes. So you would have had a bunch of spec points already saved up. And then I'm going to tell you what to do with spec points. And then I'm going to tell you how to get spec points. Okay? Or how to get more spec points than how I've already told you how to get some. So, I'm going to go over the first tree. This is the most important tree to me because the first one right here, mining process, has a very specifically good skill at the end. So the way you put in points, alright, I can't show you there, is I come over here, and then I apply knowledge, and you see the bar fills up, and then I would hit apply change if I want to make that permanent. Alright, and if you don't, you just hit undo. Alright, I would always recommend using skill points in 5s. 5, 10, 15, okay? Because these 4 skill points will increase my skill. Because if you look at a node right here, right? Study the understanding of proper mining techniques to increase your efficiency in mining, allowing for new mining opportunities. Gain +1 skill per point in the specialization. And remember, for most profession, +1 skill means you do the thing better, right? That's what it means. So for mining, that means you get more ore and stuff, all right? 1 point of skill increases the amount of stuff you get, all right? For crafting profession, increases the quality of stuff you make. So each point in these trees does the thing it says here. But each of these nodes gives a bonus. Alright, that's why you usually want to do it in 5s. But if you're just trying to edge out a little upgrade, or you just want to be efficient, because it's technically giving you more skill when you put stuff in, you can put in the points. Alright, but usually you want to put them in by 5s. Alright, so you know when you're unlocking something new. Now let's start going over the first nodes here. So you got these little nodes, alright? These little nodes do something that you kind of want to pay attention to, but not that much, alright? The big nodes here have a special effect. So we're talking about mining process here. So as you can see, this first one says I get, when I put the first point in, well, it's not even that. So when you unlock one of these, right, you start at 0, right? You start here, and you get this first node, right? So I have 0 points. This first node is unlocked at 0, all right? So when I get mining process, I get this first node for free, all right? So I get +10 skill when mining all deposits. That's very nifty. You know, we had another small node here, +10 deafness. Remember, deafness is how quick you do it. So these miner nodes are pretty cool and all too. But let's start focusing on these big nodes. I'm not going to get into these minor nodes. If you're going to level mining and other professions, you can check these out in your journal as well. But I'm going to talk about the main stuff. So in some of these minor nodes, you will see learn a sub-specialization. So when I'm going to talk about them for a second. So you get up here, I'd use 10, it would unlock a sub-specialization. What a sub-specialization are these. Alright, these 3 different ones here, okay? These are sub-specializations. So when I get to 10 here, I can unlock one of these. And again, when you unlock it, you get this first one for free. So when I unlock this, I get +25 from this. When I unlock this, I get +25 deafness. When I unlock this, I get +15 perception, and so on. Alright? So that's what that means. Alright? But now let's focus on the big nodes, because I'm going to talk about why I think this is the first one you should go into, and my recommendations in spending your spec points. Spec points, you can earn all of this stuff. At a certain point, I will have everything in this tree, and everything in this tree. I'll have everything in all these trees. Alright? But it just takes time. So you do kind of want to go for certain stuff first, depending on what you want to do. So now let's get into where I recommend spending your spec points. Alright. So for mining process is very important, because at the very end of mining process here, having mastered the processes of mining, you are now able to gather ore while mounted on the Dragon Isles. A mastery of mining processes also gain plus 50 deftness when mining ore deposits. This allows you to mine while on your dragon. This is extremely helpful for 1, leveling up mining, 2, getting more skill points, as we'll go on to show, and 3, it's just really cool. It's really nice to not have to get off your dragon. You know, you can also use the mount equipment, or if you're a tank, alright, to make it so you can't get dismounted. If you're a tank, you don't get dismounted, period. But you can get some mount equipment that makes it so you don't get dismounted. I don't have that on right now, but highly recommend if you're not a tank, so you don't get dazed. But yeah, so this allows you to mine while on your dragon mount. I can't recommend this tree enough to get this one done first before you do anything else. Now, I'm going to go over what else is in this tree. But honestly, if you want my recommendation route, you go to 35 here. Alright? Get 1 point in all your spec trees. And then you're going to head over here into the Elemental Mastery. And we'll talk about this one later. But that's what I recommend. So you get 35 here, and you'd head over to Elemental Mastery, get 1 here. And then start working your way through here is what I would recommend. That's my recommend route. But let's go through this, because there's different stuff depending on what you want to do, and this gets really cool here. So we got our 35. We've now unlocked all these different sub-specializations. This is great. But also, while I've been doing that, my mining skill has been increasing. So now in Dragonflight, they've lowered the requirements of unlocking these. So you unlock your first tree at 25. So at 25, I would only be able to unlock 1 of these trees. And for mining, I recommend this and this and this thing. But then when I hit 50 and then 75, I get to choose another. So at 50, you can choose 1 more of these to unlock. And again, you get the first thing in the tree. So say I got to 50 in mining and I get to unlock a new tree. What I would click is Mastering the Elements, and then that would now allow it, whenever I mine ore native to the Dragon Isles, the cooldown of your Overload Elemental Deposit ability is significantly reduced. And then it says you learn it if you don't already know it. So this allows you to use your Overload ability a lot more, because the cooldown on it, if you didn't know, was 12 hours. But when you're mining a bunch and you have this skill unlocked, you lower it and can use it again and get more ore and more ore. So that's why I recommend going here for your second tree. And then at 75, I would get to pick a third tree, and in my example, I would pick Metallurgy as my third and final one, and then that would get me the refining. Now, there are multiple ways to spec your miner, and if you're going to have multiple miners, I would actually recommend different stuff depending on what their extra profession is. I'm going to go over that right now. So, I've mastered mining process, and I've hit 100 or 75 in the skill, and I've got these trees all unlocked. And let's just say now I'm 100 skill or whatever. The skill, your skill level only matters for unlocking these in regards to the spec, and spec points are their own thing and add to your skill, essentially. In this case, like I said, it says I gain 1 skill. Now, it doesn't show up in your journal, technically, but if you were to track this on a crafting profession, it would show the additive stuff, but the gathering ones don't. But essentially, since each point in this, I'm essentially at mining, so you would add another 35 on top of this for each point in this. And if you look over here, each point in this gives me +1 deafness. And then, again, I'd get these little bonuses as I fill up the tree. And deafness is your speed. So if you're trying to mine fast, I'd pick up and start speccing into industrialization. And the cool part about industrialization, and this is actually one for jewel crafters, is when you max out industrialization, you have a chance to find gems whenever you mine. And the gem quality I get is 2. I haven't gotten a 1 and I haven't gotten a 3 quality gem. I get 2 quality gems, or rank 2. Now, surveying, this is actually the one I recommend. I recommend going surveying because this gives you a ton of perception, and perception gets you rare stuff. And here is another good one for jewel crafters. You have a chance to uncover illimited diamond when mining rich ore deposits. Alright, so this is a very important spec if you are a jewel crafter. Let me tell you. You know, if you want those diamonds to make that money, you want to go perception first is what I would recommend, and then you get deafness, or industrialization. Alright, you go surveying into industrialization after getting full mining process for the mining on a dragon. Now let's talk about sorting over here. So finesse, like I said, gets you more ore. So if you're just trying to get more ore for like say you're a refiner, which we'll talk about in a moment, this is the route you're gonna go. This is gonna get you sorting. Okay, yeah, finesse, getting me more ore. And then look at this, right at the end of the tree, gain even more ore from finesse. If you love ore, you want to roll around your ore, this is the tree you go next. Alright, and as you can see on my Demon Hunter, I've gotten so many spec points, I got them all. Because you can eventually get everything. Alright? But if you're trying to optimize, get 35 here, and then there's some other stuff for jewel crafter, but I definitely recommend going these for jewel crafting. Alright, perception I'd recommend for everyone, because you can get the diamond and then sell it if you're not a jewel crafter. So this tree, this spec is one of the better specs to go at the start, and you know, get as many points into here as you can. Alright, now the second one I want to talk about is mastering the elements, because this is what I recommend going second. So like I said, the first point over here, when you unlock this specialization, gets you the elemental overload if you don't already have it, and he gives you that cooldown reduction. So the more ore you mine, the more times you can overload it, and you're getting more of the essences, or you're getting the buffs, or you're getting more ore from hardened deposits. It's freaking good. Alright, now we make our way around here. Let's look at this. Gain additional rousing essences when mining elemental deposits. So good. And then, like I said, at the end of this tree, you get overload, gives you rousing essence. So not only are you overloading more, but you're getting essences from that. If you are looking to have a toon that gathers tons of this rousing essence for, like I said, you get, for mining, you get a lot of fire and earth. If you want to get, if you need to get a lot of that for your other toons for crafting across your account, get a miner, max out 35 here, and then head into this and start bumping this up and start collecting all that rousing essence. Alright? This would really go good because enchanters need a lot of essences. So if you're having a miner that's specifically gathering, you may not want to go to the gem route. And like I said, you'd hit 35 here with everything. I always recommend 35 here, no matter where you're going. But if you want that miner of yours to gather tons of essences, start pumping it into here and start unlocking this. Now, for this tree, let's talk about it more. So this gives +1 skill on all elemental deposits per point in the skill. Alright, that's cool. Alright, so let's talk about the primal one real quick, because the primal one's got some good stuff to it. So, when you... as you go up this tree, you're going to unlock these sub-specializations. The first one I actually recommend you get is the Molten one. So let's just start here, actually, just work our way around. So the Molten one, the first thing that it does is damage dealt by mining molten deposits reduced by 50. It's going to help you not die. Now you can mine 2 deposits in a row and not get myrtleized. Super good to just get that so you're not getting killed. Now, as you can see, I haven't spec'd more into it, but see, all this stuff just gives me bonus to molten deposits. Personally, I don't find the value in all this stuff per specialty ore, but this is actually good to do when you start just targeting these ore deposits later, which I'll talk about in a moment. Because there's a lot to go through. I still got on my list. Jeez. So as I go up through this tree, like I said, it'll give me more bonus molten. We got here, mining elemental deposit now reduces the cooldown of overload. So halfway through all of these trees, you're going to get that one, which is going to increase the cooldown you get. So again, if your tune is focused around getting lots of element, I would recommend filling out this tree versus this one. Okay? But if you're trying to get ore and stuff, this is the one. But if you need elements, this is definitely one to go to after the 35 here. I cannot stress that enough. Alright. So let's move on to the final molten one. Mining molten deposits empowers you with the elemental fire. Your abilities cause enemies to erupt in flame for 6 seconds. Because that's what you need. That's literally what you need when you're mining to kill enemies. This is why I haven't spec'd into this. You probably want to stop halfway in each one and then work on finishing it. Because why do I need a mining buff when I'm trying to get ore? Alright. So for Earth, again, finesse, perception, you're going to get this for your hardened ores. Hardened ores are really good. You know, you get the cooldown reduction halfway through, and then this will make mining hardened deposits give you a shield of stone that reduces all damage for a short while. This can kind of be good for mining, but I actually don't see the advantage of, like I said, going all the way through this tree in any rush. You know, if you just want to optimize, I'd recommend getting halfway. Then we got Titan Touched, which again, halfway through gets you the overload reduction, which is good. And then at the end, attune yourself to the portals opened by the overload. Remember, I told you these open to a portal to the other deposit, allowing you to return to where you first portal opened. So it can take you somewhere, and if you're like, oh my god, this new place sucks, you go back to the old one and then continue to fly and look for more ore anyways. So again, these don't really give you that much goodies for the capstone. It's more combat related for 2, and then this one, it just gives you a way back. Alright, now let's move into Primal. As you can see, I got some spec points in because Primal's kind of cool. You know, the first thing of Primal allows you... Did I talk about these? Oh, let's talk about... Okay. So the first tree of Titan Touched empowers you when you mine it, and it increases your speed and secondary stat. Again, it's a buff, but it's not to mining, and you don't get extra stuff. But for Primal, and this is, like I said, why I have points here, the first skill point of Primal allows you to get Rousing Air or Rousing Frost essences not traditionally found by miners. Which is true. Herbalists get more air and frost, miners get more fire and earth. So this is very helpful if you're trying to get a lot of essences on tunes. And it gives your primal deposits the ability to give you air and frost, which you normally wouldn't be able to get. Halfway through, you get more overload. And then all the way through, Primal Essence now also gives your spells and abilities a chance to unleash the blast of damage from an elemental school. That's the buff you get from mining these. And let me tell you, Again, it's combat related. It's not going to increase your mining output. So I definitely recommend getting this tree and probably pushing this one up so you can get more materials. If your spec for mining is trying to get more rousing essence, I recommend get 50 here, max this out, and then halfway, and then I would actually recommend going in and finishing this for all the bonuses here. Alright, so if you're a miner that wants lots of essences, 35 here, 50 here, halfway finished here, so 20 there, 20 there, 20 there, 20 there, and then fill this out like the other way I talked about. Now let's move into the last spec tree. You only want to go into this if there's a strategy with this tree. So this is the refining tree, alright? Now quality of ore kind of matters, but when you're gathering so much of it, you start getting nothing but tier 3 anyway. Alright? But there's some cool stuff about the refining tree, which is interesting, that I actually just learned about. So what you can do is, let's talk about how refining works first. So, first point in metallurgy will get me the ability to refine Cerevorite into Cerevorite 2. You use a forge for this. You take 5 Cerevorite ore and reduce it, but you increase the quality. So you go from 5 ore to 1 ore, but it's a higher quality. Let me tell you, I have not used this at all, but I found an interesting use for this, okay? Well, let's go through the spec tree. But I'm trying to keep it real. I've not found a use for this, but I found one use for this, and it's very interesting. But let's go through the refining tree, because there is something cool about this tree, which is why I've been putting more points into it. So let's go to metallurgy. Alright, so the first thing, it unlocks you to refine, okay? Then a lot of these small nodes give you a lot of like skill and perception. So we're going to talk about. So we get here, we get a first sub-spec. We can now start to refine Casgarite, which Casgarite is... The quality of Casgarite usually matters a lot more. But still, when you're talking about reducing how much Casgarite you have, it's crazy, because you need a lot of Casgarite more than the quality. You know, this one gets you the final specialization. And here's the interesting part, though. Here's the interesting part. And this could be very helpful for a certain secondary profession with mining. Is at 30 points here, which is actually where I'm going to put my next 5 points. Refining Casgarite now has a small chance of uncovering Awakened Order. Not Rousing Order, Awakened Order. Now, here's the interesting part, right? Oh, no, we're talking about that in a minute. And then at the end here, you learn how to refine Quality 2 to Quality 3. That's pretty nifty. Now, the cool part about the metallurgy tree, which I do know, is the fact to specialize into the ore deposits. So as you can see here, I'm specialized in Draconium. It's increasing the amount of Draconium I'm getting. If I'm on a tune and I need just tons of Draconium for certain crafts, which certain professions do want lots of Draconium, you want to spec into this tree and start maximizing your Draconium. You know, you got the middle one will be the refined from 2 to 3. And then the final stuff for each of these is its own little special thing as well. Which for Draconium is refining Draconium ore now has a small chance of finding rousing essences. So you got Casgarite, which can get you Awakened Order when you refine it. Draconium, which can get you rousing essence. So say you're the primal build and you're starting to branch out into other stuff, because remember, this is uncapped. You can eventually get everything. You wanna maybe branch out into this Draconium ore, and I'll tell you the point of refining in a little bit. And now we're going to head over to Cerevorite. You know, we come over here, more skill, more finesse, more deftness. Alright, quality 2 to 3. And then the final thing of Cerevorite, which is going to be pertinent to jewel crafters, refining Cerevorite ore now has a small chance of finding gems. That's pretty nifty. So, Cerevorite for gems, Draconium or for Rousing Order, and Kazgarite for Awakened Order. Alright, now let's talk about refining. I said usually you don't want to increase the quality and reduce the amount. But I've noticed something. When I'm leveling alt miners, they're getting a crap ton of ones. Alright? Ones later on are awful. Alright? Okay? But at the top end of mining, you're not getting ones anymore. Not even of Kazgarite. I don't get a 1 quality Kazgarite anymore because my mining's so high. But the nifty thing about refining, and why you may want to have one toon or a couple toons specialize in an ore, is on alts that you also are miners, because a lot of people have alts and they're like, oh, I'll mine on them or gather on them. They're going to get, while leveling up, a ton of level 1 ores. Okay? Now, I wouldn't recommend upgrading 2s to 3s. Losing 5 2s for 1 3? Yikes. But 5 1s for 1 2? With the bonus to get Awakened Order from Kazgarite, or Gems from Cerevorite, or Rousing Essence from Draconium, that's pretty nifty. So what I would do is I'd have a Jewel Crafter with Refining Cerevorite, send over all the crap ones, have them go through all the Severite refining it, and I get a ton of gems. That's the use I've seen for refining right now. Honestly, I've literally, like I said, I've still not done it. I've literally not refined ore, but that is a very interesting thing that I figured out you can do with it. Now, I've gone over my recommendations for specs. Alright? You get your first 35 here. If you want to get a lot of Rousing Essence, go over here. If you just want to get a lot of ore, go here. If you want to do this refining thing, where you specialize in an ore and have that miner specialize in gathering Cerevorite, or specialize in mining Draconium, you can do that too. Alright? Now, the final topic is why I've flew all the way over here. Every profession in Dragonflight has a secret trainer in the world, except for fishing and cooking. Every main profession. And I'm over here at the Master Miner. So let's see where I'm at. I'm in Valdrassus, and I'm right here at the Temporal Conflux. Alright? I'm on this big little rock up here.
Looks like you could all use some.
Just north of that, you fly up here. And I think she's up here because she wants to be an earthbender. This is her own little island, and you're going to find Bridget Holdug, Master Miner.
Keep your feet on the ground.
Once you're 25 skill, you talk to her, and you're going to get... I want to get this right. Plus 10 mining spec points. Plus 10 mining spec points. No strings attached. Alright? And here, let's fly back to Valdrakken while I talk about some other stuff here. Alright? Earning spec points is the final topic, okay? I've already talked long enough. This video is super long, but it's thorough. I'm going to tell you that. So, how to get profession skill points. Alright? So for gathering professions, you can actually infinite grind spec points. It's rare, so you'd want to use your perception to get these stone chunks. You probably noticed it while gathering. You get these stone chunks, and they give you spec points. Now, for mining, here I have the name. I'm gonna have the name pulled up. So for mining, the one that you can get 5 times a week. So each of these have a weekly lockout, but some don't. So for mining, the weekly lockout, which is 5 per week, item is called the Iridescent Ore Fragments. You can get 5 of those a week, and those each give you a spec point. Then there is an epic quality one called the Iridescent Ore itself, which gives you 3. You can get 1 of that per week. Now you can say, oh shit, I gotta mine this stuff once per week if I want to grind up my mining efficiently. Yeah, kind of. But like I said, mining can be earned infinitely because there are actually other +1 skill point items that you can get from mining. One of those is called Unyielding Stone Chunk, which you can get from hardened mining nodes. You have elementally charged stone, which you can get from primal mining nodes. Heated ore sample, which you can get from molten mining nodes. Those you can get as many times as you want. Okay? And the higher perception helps you find more. Again, which is why I recommend perception. Alright? So that's for gathering specific. Now, another way to get spec points. Each renown track, alright, has a special thing depending on your profession. And one is at 14 and one is at 24. Okay? So for mining, the renown is Dragon Scale and Valdraken. Alright? So at renown 14 with Dragon Scale and renown 24 and renown 14 and 24 of Valdraken, you're going to get a little book that you can buy from the vendor. The main renown vendor will have it too, or the crafting vendor. And the level 14 one will get you 5 knowledge points, and the level 20 renown 24 one will get you 10 knowledge points. All right. So that's pretty nifty, alright? So, again, for mining, that's Dragon Scale and Valdraken. That's 15 renown, or 15 spec points from hitting renown 24. You know, you may not be getting there for a while, but it's nifty to know. Now, another way to get spec points is from the weekly quests. There's a weekly quest for every profession, and it comes from the main trainer in Valdraken. And for miners, that's Sakita the Burrower. You know, I've already done the weekly quest, but it's usually pretty easy. It's gather some stuff, turn it in, bada boom. That's an easy 3 skill points right there. And there's another way to get skill points, and it's by good old Rabul here. And you can't actually see it because I've already bought it. But he will have what are called... Here, let me get the correct name. Oh my god. Alright. So, okay, so it's going to be... The first one's called Dusty. The second one's called Rare. And the third one's called Ancient. So as you get rep up with the Artisans Consortium, which is a big deal for main crafting professions, less so for gathering, but it's still handy for gathering. So, at Preferred, which is essentially the second rep level 2 out of 5, you get the Dusty Tome, which will give you 15 skill points in mining. Alright, and it costs metal. And the cool part is, when you get skill points, you get metal, so you literally get refunded some when you learn it, which is sweet. The second one, you can buy 1. You can't buy it permanently, so you can buy 1. The second one comes at valued, alright, which is rank 4. I know, that one takes a bit. And the third one is the Ancient one, which is at Esteemed, and that one is at max rank, which I just now got. Which is why I am super far along with my tree, because I've gotten 45 spec points from Rabul alone in the Artisans Consortium. But that's a big grind rep. But I'm mentioning it because you can get skill points from here. You can also get skill points from the Dark Moon Fair, You can get skill points weekly from Draconic Treatises, which I've talked about in its own video. There's one for mining. You do it once a week. That's one free skill point. You can also get spec points in gathering professions by using the Dragon Shard of Knowledge. If you have a crafting profession, I'd actually say use the Draconic Shards of Knowledge for crafting professions versus gathering. But if you're a double gatherer, well, hey, you can do that. Alright. And that is actually all the ways to get gathering. And I've already talked about the first time gathers. But those are actually all the ways to get skill points for gathering. And I'm just going to recap it real quick before I go. So, you got the weekly +3 from the quest. You got the treatise +1, which is weekly. You got the stuff you can gather weekly. 5 for the iridescent ore fragment. 5 skill points for 5 iridescent ore fragments. And 3 skill points for 1 iridescent ore. That's weekly. Now there's the stuff that's not weekly, which is Darkmoon Fair every month +3. Rabuls 1 time +15s for the different reps with our Artisans Consortium. You have the Secret Trainer, which is a 1 time +10. You have the Renown 1 times +5 and +10 at the different Renown levels, 14 and 24. For the 2 reputations, so in total that would be 30. And for mining, that's Dragon Scale Expedition and Valdraken. You have the Dragon Shards, which you can get all the time. You have the first time gathers of each ore and each overload. And then for mining specifically, you can infinitely farm the rare drops from the elemental deposits. So, like I said, for mining, you can max it out whenever you want. It just takes a lot of time. And that's pretty much it. I really hope I covered everything in this video. You know? Sorry for no timestamps, but you can't say I wasn't thorough. But that's been Bob's mining guide for Dragonflight mining. And hopefully you liked it. This one took a lot of work for me, and I hope it gives everyone a lot of info that they may have been missing. You know, get them skill points, get that mining, get that ore, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.